That's perfect. I can see there. Okay, ready.
Cool, so it was a pretty good lap. I thought getting the bike in the right spot for the majority of the lap. A couple little things like, I don't know if you're dragging your foot on the rear brake here, or if you're trying to like start covering, but like your brake light gets kind of fired up.
Yeah.
Like halfway down the straightaway here, so I was kind of like, that was a little interesting, kind of seeing it come on that early while you're still in a full tuck. So either you're holding your fingers on it or you're dragging your foot on the rear brake, but you got to be really cautious with that, because if you're running against the throttle at like high speed like that, the rotors get so hot that they'll boil the fluid and the brakes will start to fail. So yeah, you kind of want to really avoid that, you know, whenever you kind of can. So but good. I thought once the brakes came on for the second time, I thought really nice pass tip in here, kind of catching that last kind of shift with your lower body. So think about already having that set up before we get in towards that brake zone, trying to leave with that upper body. And then, you know, when we do kind of like zoom in, this inside arm, like we're holding the handlebar. I think when I was leading you, that was kind of the biggest thing, is like, that's really stopping that upper body from being able to move into the corner. So the more you can kind of get that idea of like, you know, it's like when we come down the straightaway, like imagine your clip-ons are down and back like this. Think as you go to the brakes, you almost have to like rotate your hands up on top of it a little bit. Like you want to be able to go to the brakes like this, but be on top of the bar so you can move, but you're starting holding it, so you kind of get stuck down here, and that's why we can't get weight off that inside arm. Good. Inside elbow is starting to bend a little bit better to the left-hand side. I thought doing better with the triangle light. I like where the butt is here on the left as well. So I thought up here into 1B was all looking really good. Good. See, that was better. Now you're getting that kind of big bend in the inside elbow. We're seeing some light through there. We're seeing that outside arm straight. Now when you draw a line straight up, we're actually seeing your body to the inside. That was a lot better there. Again, back to the center of the seat, like, you're on one of our bikes, yeah? Yeah, like think about like if you're on your personal bike, you want to be able to be on the right-hand side and still be able to make it to your shifter, right? So if you don't feel like, or if you feel like you have to go back to the center of the seat to get to it, move the shifter so it's more convenient for you to get from the other side of the bike, because you have a lot of going back when you're shifting.
Yeah, I feel like it forces my foot to be pointed down more, so you could move it up.
Yeah, you pull the lever up. So if you're here and you can't get your toe under it or above it or whatever, just kind of, you know, it's just a little adjuster, so you can just spin it and kind of get it to a height that feels a little bit more comfortable. Often people have them too low, you know, so they struggle when they get kind of hung off the opposite side of the bike. Good. I thought just butt got stuck in the center of the seat there. And again, it started with that shift. You went back to the center. Then we don't move it. Now we're holding all that weight kind of down in our hands. So you kind of see like the Dainese pointers right at your tail light. So your butt's right smack dab in the center. But you are trying to do a good job bending this inside elbow. So if I draw the line straight up, we're starting to get the head in there. But if you could start getting a little bit more, a couple inches to each side, I think that would really help. And then that was just that, you know, just immediately jump your eyes across to the next apex. We got to find that cone out wide, let it track out, and then you'll turn it in a second time. Good. Good through there. I'm liking the body a little bit better to the left-hand side. So, you know, often that'll come a little bit from, you know, this hand position on the right with our throttle and brakes, because you're actually doing a much better job getting moved to the left. So, you know, as much as we can kind of work towards, I think that triangle light's pretty good, but again, to the right, you're just not moving your butt nearly as much. So you get kind of stuck in the center. The knees rotated open, but you're kind of having a hunch over and around that fuel tank. If you just offset that body a little bit, it's just gonna make it a lot easier to see in there. Good, beautiful apex. And again, at this point, like, you'd start to see like back here, you're actually got exit direction. So at this point you could stand it up and accelerate. You'd almost want to see the helmet like kind of take that peak, like we're looking to the outside of the track, but you're still looking left, looking left, looking left, looking left, looking left, so it stays down. Then you'll kind of see it out there and you start trying to track out there, and now you'll try to turn it again. So again, that's just that seeing that exit a little bit earlier. If you can kind of give the bike somewhere to go, you will start to feel a lot more confident getting back to the throttle. Good. similar with there, right? It actually had really great exit direction, nice and patient on the entry. You're parallel with the cones all the way back here, right? It's exit style corner, which means we want to slow it, turn it, point it, and have our slowest point before the apex cones and accelerate by them. Good. I actually thought a little bit better job with the upper body, but still a little bit centered. You know, it's kind of just starting with where that the butt position is. Good, little flicker of the brakes. That's all we need at that pace. I like the acceleration here. Just plan on a little bit more brakes and you know, trying to see this straight line. So it's almost like kind of if you know, you weren't there at this point, I'm actually looking up towards this curve. That's really going to be my exit out of this corner. So the second I see like here, I can draw a straight line out there. I go, cool, I can stand it up and accelerate. Now I'm going to the brakes. Now looking across the grass, trying to find that apex. So you go, oh, it's tighter in there. I better build more brakes, where again, it's that late head turn, puts you a little bit behind the bike.
Yeah, I should have had that earlier so that I could hit that apex.
Yeah, and just, you know, it's all about that's making straight lines. But you know, the nice thing is you are doing really well with the brakes, right? So you're letting it slow. So even if you're on maybe wider or more shallow into the corner than you want to be, you're doing a really good job actually adjusting brake pressure to get it back down to the apex, which is an important part of what we're doing here. Good, awesome on the brakes there. And again, you just see kind of like that little bobble as you're kind of going there, and that's just weighting the steering head, right? We don't really have we're not that locked in with the outside leg. We don't really see much of a triangle of light here. So we're holding all that weight in that inside handlebar. So it's the moment you're pushing the bar and you kind of finally relax, that's what you feel is like the steering head kind of snapping back. That ideally goes from the brakes, initial turn in, you're trying to do that a lot earlier. So that way the bike can kind of do its own thing coming in versus us holding it and leaving kind of like that wheel kind of cocked out to the outside of the corner. Good exit.
The deception turn always gets me. I always
Yeah.
get too fast.
Actually, I thought you did a really good job getting it. You were in a little shallow, but I liked seeing you actually build a little bit more brake pressure here and really tighten it up. At this point, you'd be parallel with the curbs or the apex cones if they were there. Like you got an exit direction where you can stand it up. Here, you let it turn just too long. So that opens it up, but no big deal because, you know, the next corner is faster. So if you open it up a little bit more, you don't hurt the more important part of it. So good. Good. A little flicker of brakes if you need them. Just think that brake release being a little bit further in there, right? We're kind of straight up and down and it pops off right almost as we're starting to turn in. And again, if you think about the way the fork kind of works, it's like, you know, you'll go to the brakes, it'll collapse and you start turning into the corner. Even though you're turning into the corner and giving up brakes, the fork will stay relatively collapsed because you get lateral load, right? Like that kind of keeps it kind of, you know, kind of further down in the stroke. But when you go to the brakes up here, you release it and then you turn in, that kind of puts you in that underloaded side. And again, it's just, you know, brake release being a little bit further in there. And I thought just a little bit late with the eyes here. And then I think you were confused if we should run a lap or get off. So you kind of throw your hand up here, but.
Oh, which was, were you supposed to get off or?
Yeah, I mean, if you ran another lap, I was going to just keep filming, but
that would have been cool.
Yeah, or just got you down here, but no big deal. I thought, right idea, just, yeah, a couple little things, you know, it's just that weight in the outside hand. We really got to get a little bit more locked in down low, right?
Yeah.
So it's starting with like just not being in the center of the seat will be kind of the first step to that. So, you know, we've still got a bunch of riving left. So as we get back out, try to make that a bit of a priority, just not being in the center of the seat. And, yeah, be cautious of that overlap in the throttle and the brakes, like down the straightaway, because that can be a real big deal if you start kind of boiling the brake fluid.
Yes. One question I had
Yep.
is, do you ever think about having a pincer action, like a compression between the foot and the thigh, like together, I guess, to grab the motorcycle?
You know, it's you see that a little bit in GP now, where we used to say never pinch the tank. you know, because you think when your butt's off, when you squeeze, generally people's butt would come back into the center, right? Which is what we're trying to avoid. We want one butt cheek off for close to before you turn in. But you are seeing it now. You know, again, they have, you know, they spend months and you know, go through hundreds of models of their fuel tank to get it where it's comfortable. But you will see them kind of sometimes pinching it with their knees and squeezing in with their legs on the hard braking. And then when the corner comes up, they'll get their knee out and turn in. So, you know, and I know there's times like when we do these long endurance races where it's just like your arms are so smoked, you're trying to use any other thing that you could do just because you're getting tired. And it's, you know, whatever you can make work. But if you're having to go back to the center of the seat, that's kind of like the thing we're trying to avoid, which naturally you're kind of in the center of the seat, especially to the right-handers. Lefts, you're moving, you know, definitely a little bit more than the rights, but yeah, if you feel like the braking force is kind of pushing you forward too much, yeah, you could use a little bit kind of pinching here and there, but you know, it's ideally we would try to kind of use that top of a push-up weight down into your palms a little bit more, so we kind of are back off that fuel tank and have the dexterity to kind of move when we get kind of bound up here and we're turning in. Again, it's just one thing that you got to do after turn-in, which is what you're trying to avoid. Like we move the butt before the brakes, so we don't need to move in the brake once we've turned in, because we'll put an input into the bars and the bike gets a little bit unstable. So if you can get that stuff done earlier, ideally that's what we're doing. But you know, if you need it for that moment, just try to get it, you know, your leg back open and body position before you start that tip in, ideally.
Nice. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, no worries. Nice job.
Yeah, really fun.
We'll jump back over there. I think we're gonna